Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I'm Aggelos, founder of the Dungeon Crawler Network, and I am joined by my amazing co-host over here at the Mighty Beard Tavern. We've got Stormslord. How are you?
Oh, awesome. Doing great.
Excellent. And the one who carries us through every BR game ever, Alpha Soul.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
Excellent. We are missing a Crowjack. I'm not sure where he's at. I think he fell asleep on us. It's possible. I know. It's weird. For those of you who are watching us live on twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawler Network, we are recording this on a different date, the 13th of February, which is a Wednesday, because our standard recording day that we live stream is Valentine's Day. And given that all of us are married, it was probably not a wise idea for us to do a show on that day.
Yep.
I would agree.
Yeah. I spoke with all my co-hosts. I was like, you know, if we don't want episode 82 to be the last episode that we do, it's best we change the time. So that's what we did. And yeah. Anyway, we got a fun show planned for all of you guys this very evening. We got a good bit of news coming out of Intrepid Studios that we're going to be chatting about, and that'll pretty much be the main thing we will be talking about all evening. We got a Q&A over on Reddit that was held on the 8th of February. There's a few good tidbits in there that we will, of course, talk about and speculate over. And, of course, if you want to read the entire Q&A, because we will not be going over it verbatim, it'll be in a link in the description of this podcast. So definitely check that out. We got some additional Castle Siege details that will further enlighten us on that upcoming mode. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. Yeah. We got new cosmetics coming in. And I was right, Alpha Soul. I don't know if you looked, but they changed the name.
I saw.
Yeah,
I saw it.
We'll get into that one right after this. And some possibly devastating news for a few of you guys out there. An upcoming director's letter and rebuilds? Okay. Lots of stuff. Anyway, before we jump into the show, I got to thank all of our amazing people over at patreon.com/Dungeon Crawler Network, as well as our Twitch subs here on our Twitch channel. You guys are great. You allow us to keep doing these shows, and hopefully we entertain you each and every week. We have been doing this show now for over 2 years. Oh, no, almost 2 years, because I think our second 2-year anniversary is May 3rd, so it's just a few months away, and we'll be hitting 2 years of doing this show. And almost episode 100, which is a big milestone for any podcast, to be honest. I'm excited.
Cool.
I'm excited.
Yeah, there you go.
Look forward to that, because we will definitely be having Steven back. He's already agreed to that he will come back and grace us with his presence, either for our second anniversary or episode 100, whichever happens first, and whichever one we feel like inviting him back on for. I honestly think our second anniversary will happen before episode 100, just due to the fact that we missed a few episodes here and there. Like, I think we've only missed 2 or 3 in the entire time we've been doing this show. Anyway, and of course, do not forget about our iTunes challenge to get us up to 100 5-star reviews. We are currently sitting at 59 5-star reviews on the U.S. store. I am counting the other countries as well as I get them over the course of 2019. I only get notifications of them once a month, though. I know some of you guys who listen to us from all over the globe have sent me messages saying that you left us a review, and that is amazing. I really, really do appreciate that, and it really does help us as a podcast so people can find us. Okay. Let's jump right on into the news. First up, they went to a Reddit. Lieutenant Toast took to Reddit and gave us a few question and answer things. I'm really articulate tonight, aren't I?
You are. You're working at it.
I know.
It's like you're saying words.
I am almost saying words, but they obviously don't matter. Oh, and because I forgot to mention this, we will not be having a post-show for the live viewers this evening. I've been battling some allergies and a cold, and I'm just very tired, so we won't be doing one of those this evening. Anyway, first up, I'm only going to highlight a couple questions that I thought were kind of neat, and I had really hoped Crojack was here, because one of my favorite ones that got asked was, is the corruption system here to stay? Flat out, yes.
Flat out, yes.
Just yes. That's all you... Anything else, just yes. And it should.
I agree. I know this is probably coming, from the pure PvP players. And I mean, hey, they have a right to want to play the way they want to play. It makes sense. But I know this corruption system is not particularly popular among those who just want a PvP for PvP's sake. I would argue, personally, that there are systems in the game that facilitate PvP, caravans, castle sieges, and the like, that funnels you into where PvP should happen with like-minded players versus ganking poor, unsuspecting people out in the wilderness.
Right.
But
ganking and griefing is not PvP.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like, even with... I think the corruption system will inevitably make it longer that you can enjoy PvP, right?
Exactly, I would agree.
If you leave it to the restraints off, the natural they'll just drive, everyone who is interested in PvPing. Everyone is strong, but you'll slowly drive people off of the game if you leave it unrestrained. But that's just my opinion.
No,
absolutely, I think you would.
We always see that argument of the wolves versus the sheep.
Yeah.
With any PvP style game. One of our guildmates, who's a very big PvPer, he was playing, what game was it? Mortal Online, that's what it was. Full loot, all, PvP game. That's literally the only game. And a few years into development, essentially, at this point, it's on its last legs. I'm sure it's still running, but it's to the point now where the only people left are the wolves. Because, you're a new player, you go strutting outside the village, and because everyone who's not a 100% PvPer has already left the game, the PvPers are bored and sit around and, hang outside the starting town and gank you as soon as you get out, because that's the only PvP they got left, which discourages new players who then leave the game, and then the poor wolves are back to starving again.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, without prey, predators starve. That's just the way it goes.
That's one of the reasons that that's one of the factors that attributed to Shadowbane's fall, was exactly that, only on a little bit bigger of a scale.
Well, Shadowbane had... I'm glad you talked about Shadowbane. I loved playing Shadowbane. I don't know... did you play a lot of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There were a few things I think kind of led to its fall. But yeah, you're right. Eventually, there wasn't enough game left over for people to play after just the PvP side of it.
Oh, yeah, I want to be clear. That's not the only reason that Shadowbane failed. Shadowbane failed for many other reasons, but PV, or the way that they structured their PvP system and the way that wolves were able to truly drive you from the server was one of the factors that contributed to it falling.
Yeah. I don't even think there was a safe haven bonus or anything like that in order for players to continue. Like, I think at one point, one guild took over the entire server and no one could do anything about it.
Because there's no safe haven. There's no way to recoup.
Right.
I mean, that's part of what's going to happen in that type of situation. You need to have some way of being able to protect yourself against larger groups, or you're not going to make it.
Right. Yeah. No. I know there's going to be safe zones in Ashes, but those are only starter areas anyway to prevent people. But, I mean, how much time are you really going to be spending in starter areas, and what can you really do in the starter area? Given a level-based system like that they're using, It's not like you can sit in the forest killing boars. Get it? No? All right.
No. All right.
I'm hoping somebody got that reference in order to level up and then move on. You'll probably be capped. Oh, I'm level 10. Now I can't do anything else. And now what do I do?
Wait, are you giving the reference of the guy who in WoW?
South Park. The Make Love Not Warcraft episode. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they based it off of... No, maybe they didn't. I thought they based it off an actual character who leveled up purely in the starting zone.
Well, yeah,
I'm thinking...
And maybe it was.
I think I'm thinking of another thing, though, where a character just leveled, not killing anything, but just, like, picking herbs or something like that.
Well, there were a few of those, so that's pretty funny. Yeah. But, yeah. So, anyway, that was that question. And actually, the corruption system is one of my favorite parts of this game. And what actually made me back it in the first place, due to the fact that it reminded me of Ultima Online, which was my first MMO and one of my first loves as an MMO. I love the idea of having recourse as a player. If a troll is really bothering me, I can stab them in the face if I'm willing to accept the consequences of doing so. Nothing is preventing me from doing so other than whether or not I really want to deal with the corruption of it. So, next question that was highlighted for me, and the reason why I want to bring this one up was because our last 2 episodes have been about crafting. Will crafting be the sole way to obtain high-level gear, meaning you would utilize raids to gather materials? The answer being crafting and world bosses will be the main way to obtain high-level gear. There are some exceptions to this in the form of legendary items, single server drops or discoveries, and other equipment that may drop wholesale. But we want artisans and top-tier raiding to produce the lion's share of high-level, high-effectiveness of equipment.
That's good.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what it should be.
I'm curious why when they said world bosses, they did. I wonder if that is alluding to the fact of no instance rating.
I don't think it's alluding to the fact of no instance rating. I think it's more alluding to the fact that in order to get the best gear, you're going to either have to do crafting or have to go into a scenario where you're competing against other people in order to get it. In other words, you can't just go off into an instance where nobody can challenge you and get it, as opposed to fighting for it in some way or shape.
Sure.
Or at least controlling the area where it is. I don't know. Yeah.
And I do like this as because it does I guess validate a lot of our last 2 episodes with the idea of crafting being able to be part of the high-end scene and not just fall off the end of the face of the earth after a certain level. Yeah. Anyone else see anything that was of particular note?
Yes. Why, in fact, so actually, let me find the question again real quick so I can read it off. So give me like 20 seconds.
Okay.
Counting.
I'm not counting any of that, but yeah, no.
Here we go. All right. Got it. Okay, so the question that I saw that was really interesting is and we could basically do a whole episode on this freaking question. What is more important to the team, the leveling up experience or the max level endgame experience in terms of content? And then the answer to that they gave was, we want to be a living game, which means that all content should be relevant at all times. I'd say that we try to make as little distinction between the leveling up experience and the endgame experience as possible. The whole journey is important to us in order to maximize the fun people have during stages of the game. So I've been going over this question in my head of how they will actually tackle this, just because they've already said that they want it to be a really long leveling experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
You sort of, yeah, okay.
Well, I'm wondering what is actually going to be the difference between let's just say a level 1 player and a level 60 player, right? Combine that with the fact that the groups and the emphasis is on group content, right? I mean, there is solo content from what I hear, but as far as I know, there's 8-man groups, really more of an emphasis on the MMO or back in MMO, right? If that's the case, I'm wondering how in the world, and at the same time, they're trying to make it, from 1 to whatever, say 60, the leveling experience is not something that you have to rush to the end to. What I'm wondering is, how will they balance out making it, integrating a level 1 with a level 30 as players go around?
The level 1 dies.
Yeah,
It's it, right? Period, right? I mean,
right.
I don't know how they're going to do that if it's an open world PvP, which it is, right?
Yeah.
Safe zones are few and far between. If you venture out as a level 10 and you come across a level 60 that wants to gank you, you don't have a chance.
Very true. Even take this another step further. What happens 5 months down the line? When, let's just say 5 or 6 months, most of us are nearing the max level, things like that, and you have a new person who comes into the game, right? This new person, what are their options for leveling? What happens if there's not enough new people or people at his or her level, to tackle that group content? Does that mean that all of a sudden, a large chunk of the game is unavailable for this person to play? Or as a viable option to level up?
Well, if there's going to be zones, they're going to have to level up somewhere, right?
It all depends on how they utilize past system or past areas. Really, and I know what you mean. This is always the problem of the deadlands that happen in mid to tier level zones, because people generally aren't in those areas. It's weird because we know they're not using any form of scaling. They've said that already before. They want levels to matter. And the way that they're going to be doing levels is nodes themselves are going to be attract stronger monsters. So you may be in a town at level 1, but you'll go to the metropolis at level, 50, which feels sort of backwards to me, and the fact that you would think a metropolis would have driven away all the nasties, and therefore that's where the lobies are, and then the frontier town is where the real danger is. But I guess they're doing a 180 on that. But
yeah, that's actually true.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would think, but I don't know. How do you do that? Other games one way of doing it would be other guilds and stuff who are going out to other nodes to level them up. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like other people, like, yo, you're a metropolis level. Well, what is there really to do there if you don't control? I mean, I'm sure there's stuff to do if that's not what your aspirations are, but if your aspirations are to level a node up and have some meaningful control, if you're not able to weasel your way in, maybe your next option is, well, maybe I'll just go level up a competing node and then give people an option to go to that. If that makes sense.
No, that does make sense.
And I mean, even maybe whole swaths of guildies will go to another node to level it up for whatever reason. Because remember, certain aspects of the game will be hidden by the node system. Maybe a few years down the road, the meta is, we know if that node hits rank 4, we'll get an iron mine. We want that mine open. Let's level it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It still keeps bothering me, though, that the whole reason that, this instance dungeons, insta queues, and, this extreme flexibility over creating groups has come about is because I think most MMOs run into the exact same problem after a while, and that's not having enough people to level up with one another at a particular point in a player's journey, right? It doesn't happen in the very beginning of the game. It may not even happen for the first year, but eventually it's going to creep up and start to happen to the point where people just either, the sign-on rate of new people coming into the game is low because you can't do anything, right? WildStar, before it got shut down, it basically happened to me to the point where I actually really liked playing WildStar. But the guilds that were already established, and if you didn't join a guild, you had to pretty much find a dedicated group of players to advance once you hit 50. right? Because once you hit 50, you had to tackle that stronger content, and you had to have a group of players who were all around your level or somebody willing to take you. If you didn't, you were stuck. You couldn't go any further, right? That's what I'm worried about with Ash's, with everything what they've said about Ash's design. I'm really curious to see how they're going to plan on tackling things like that and keeping the flow of new players coming into the game and, you know, leveling up and fighting with the rest of us, if you know what I mean.
Right.
That's a good question.
Diggs brings up something great in chat, and I'll touch on it briefly because he does make a very good point. The idea that certain things are limited. Housing is a great example because housing is a massive drive for people in MMORPGs. Like, it's a big thing, but if all the node housing is already gone, there is a form of instanced housing in apartments, but the node leadership has to turn it on, and maybe it's not as, you know, grandiose as, well, they said it wouldn't be, as owning a freehold or another place. And to get a freehold, you just have to get a node to, what is it, rank 3?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that opens up. So I think there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking in the middle tier zones from all over the place, just from people who want to own property, who want to hold on to that property and go forward from there. And that is a way of incentivizing those older zones.
That's true.
So you'll get your older players. Anyway, all right. Storms, did you have any in particular, or if not, we'll move on?
Not about that, but the development piece I want to talk about.
Oh, well, yeah, no, that was just a Q&A.
We'll get to that one, yeah.
Next up, we got some details about castle sieges, or not castle sieges per se, castle siege from the MMORPG, not Apocalypse. So let's roll that around. This came from the 6th of February. Steven was in the Discord today and dropped a few big confirmations about guild castles. One of the things that was most interesting that I saw was that there's 5 castles in the world, and they control approximately 1/5 of the map. Similar to Metropoli, whatever, that would also control 1/5 of the map. I'm assuming there's a certain level of overlap between the two. Yeah?
Yeah.
But castle sieges are sort of left out of a few different things, like they're cut out of other systems that a metro would have. Citizenship, you know, zones of influence per se, freehold system, because they don't have any of their own freeholds. But I guess the thing that interests me the most is that taxes will be double dipping essentially between the castle owner and a nearby nearby city or ZOI. Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
I mean, the castles are static, right? Like they're fixed, whereas the other towns can build up around them. But I'm curious if one guild controls a castle, but not necessarily the node, are the people who are living in that immediate area essentially American colonists when the British came and started taxing us for everything? Stamp Act, anyone? No? All right.
Wait, who gets the tax privileges again?
Both. According to this, it's both.
Oh.
Yeah, so, there's some issues there.
Because castles will have their own taxes that they can apply to their immediate area, which is 1/5 of the map. And then the cities around within their zone of influence will also be able to tax. So I'm almost curious if the castle sieges, because it's a fixed location, anything within that particular area will always have a castle tax. But then the city taxes are, you know, controlled by whatever ZOIs touch it. So if you're in, I'm trying to describe this in a way that podcast listeners understand. Let's just assume that the castle's a big circle, all right? And it's split like a pie into 8 different sections. Each one of those slices is a different ZOI. If you're in slice 1, you are paying the overall castle tax, but only Slice 1's local tax. So it's like federal and state for the...
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I was thinking of. I'm wondering then how are any of you guys familiar with the SALT tax or the SALT exception?
Is that something specific to your state? Because I know Pennsylvania has a bunch of taxes for...
Oh, no. Okay. So this one, let me just give a quick overview, and I'll tie it directly to Ashes. But the SALT is state and local tax. It's a deduction on the federal level, right? I know it because I'm going through my taxes and just finished my taxes actually right now. Mm-hmm. And what the essence of it is, it basically says you can deduct your state taxes, your state taxes from your overall gross income. And then the federal government will come in and take your taxes for the federal tax, right? So there was a recent change in the law that basically capped it at 10K, right? So what they basically said was, you can only deduct $10,000 from your state, and then the federal government will come in and take what they want, right?
Regardless of how much the state actually pulled.
Exactly. Like at 10K, they don't care how much. If the state took, $30,000 from you, then the federal government is also coming in and taking, minus $10,000, but they're still coming in after that same. So you're effectively getting double taxed, if you will. Yep. So I'm wondering if they'll institute something along those lines. If, given that we're under two zones of influences, right? Will the first tax hit you and then the second tax hit you, or both hit you at the same time, if you will?
And is there a cap?
Yes. Is there a cap?
Individually and together.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it can be killing. If you put too much of a tax on someone, it's going to drive them away from your area.
Yeah.
Again, Diggs brings up a great point. It's a counter to that. Will players even see a castle tax, or will the tax be on the city level?
Good question.
Will
they be combined? We just don't know it.
Yeah, something that we won't see. We're not going to see two different taxes on anything we do. We'll see one tax, essentially. I won't even see a tax. We'll just see prices on stuff and realize, this iron ore goes for 100 gold here, 100 copper here, but it goes for 80 over there. So clearly there's a tax going on. But of that 100 in the background, the zone of influence, the town, the city, the metro, whatever, is going, I'm taking 6% of that tax. And then the castle's like, city A, I'm taking 6% of whatever you took earlier. So I'm curious if we'll actually see castle sieges or castle taxes, or if it'll be something that the managers of the nodes will actually have to deal with, a tax of their own.
You know what I'm not clear on? Actually, I just realized now. With a castle, that makes sense. One guild controls a castle, right? How do what the heck do the zone taxes go to? Because individuals control that, or whatever form of government that you're under, right?
Well, they do, but it goes towards essentially city defense, architectural things, maintaining, because there's supposedly going to be, whenever a city's leveling up, they'll be able to move buildings around, and I'm assuming that's going to take some sort of currency. And I know way back, like episode 1, I think it was, when we interviewed Steven way long ago, I had mentioned, so what's going to prevent people from just taking the money before they're voted out of office? And he mentioned that any money that is controlled by a node will go directly into like a trust, essentially. A trust that can only be used for city-specific things.
Now, so if it was realistic, there's a way to embezzle from it, right? There's a way to shuffle this over here, right?
That actually makes me wonder whether or not that same system is for castles, or are they going the BDO route? Because I've been playing a lot of BDO lately. The castle owners, dear heaven above, do they make silver? Because they get everyone who's in the area they take a tax off of everything that happens within their city of influence, their zone. These people are walking around like in everything because it's just massive. Like, apparently there's items they can even buy which are essentially equivalent to like insanely high geared pieces of gear that's temporary, like pen level gear that's temporary. It only lasts like 7 days but costs like 10 billion silver, and they're just like, yeah, sure, whatever, because they're just rolling in so much silver.
Yeah.
In BDO, how did they get the castle?
PvP, they took it and they hold it.
So same thing over here, right? For asset creation, it's going to be what's going to drive castle sieges, right? Is it just because it's there, or because there's money rolling in that somebody wants?
Oh, it's definitely got to be money. Definitely money.
Yeah.
And I know they actually even asked later on here, they said outside of taxes, is there more power that a castle has over a region? And Steven was like, well, yeah, it'll determine crop yields, or I guess determine what crops are available.
But can
resources
we be
and
banks?
events.
Can we loan money to people to siege a castle and then get money back at interest for sieging the castle?
I was corrected. It's tri-level gear, but still, it's powerful gear in BDL. Thank you, chat room. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's fascinating to see, but they'll be able to control different crop yields, what resources. It just says resources, and this is verbatim. It says, yes, crop yields, resources, and events. What does that mean? Events could be interesting. Like, what are they doing for events? Are they throwing festivals that, bring in more, bring in more taxes, right? Yeah. First season Game of Thrones, anyone? Like, money
There
everywhere.
You go.
Yeah. But no, and I think that was about it. Again, the information on the entire conversation will be in the description below. This was taken off of the official Discord. Special thanks to the AOCdungeon.com, where they put this out here in a nice, easy-to-read format for me, so I didn't have to go pull up the Discord again. So thank you so much, AOCdungeon.com, for putting that together for our use. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to the next bit of news. This is going to be one of the lighter things before we move into probably one of the bigger issues that we have here. But it is the new February cosmetics are out and about. And I think one of the things that was really interesting, first off, there's a lot of Valoon. How do we pronounce that? I don't know.
Valoon?
All right, sure.
Yeah.
Valoon sounds good.
Valoon. All right. That's what we're going with. Normally it's all one theme, and it's mostly all that, but I noticed there's a few Vec items in here too, which I thought was kind of interesting, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, first up on the docket here. Oh, it's beautiful. I already have it set up and ready to go. If you are looking and watching on YouTube and our Twitch at some point, you'll now see the image in the center of the screen. If you are listening on the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, any of those places, or wherever you get your podcast, I recommend opening up the link in the description so you can view these with us. First one is the Mantle of the Silver Temple.
What the hell is that?
Well, I will read the
A
description.
mantle of the Silver Temple.
As the moon rises in the skies of Vera, Vec astrologers, of the Silver Temple don their mantles. The disk of garnet reflects the glow of the moon, so they may bask in the light of the heavens as they gaze upon the stars. Essentially, it's a weird halo thing, and there's a picture of a moon in it, our image.
But how
of
does
the
it
moon.
fit on the head?
I don't think it does.
What?
I don't think it does. I think it just floats there. Magic.
So instead of a hat, we have a floaty thing.
A floaty thing, yeah.
All right.
Because you're right. It's not even a full circle. What this kind of reminds me of is a Stargate. If anyone's ever seen Stargate, but it's not the full circle. It's like a crescent moon with a little bit of extra on the top of it, and then a full moon in the center that hovers behind the head. Magic floating hat thing.
Nah.
I like the silver mantle title better than the magic floating hat thing.
Mantle of the Silver Temple. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I don't know. Again, most people know my opinion on a lot of these cosmetics. I prefer more the realistic with a touch of fantasy, more kind of the low fantasy type thing. But we're getting to some super high fantasy stuff. This wouldn't be my thing. Maybe it's your thing. I don't know. Magic. Moving on to the next one. We've got the Oracle of the Far Prairie. This is some demon-possessed, ember embedded in the skull demon rat whose tail happens to form a heart. Was that an apt description?
That was an apt description.
It was.
Okay, well, the full description is the strange rodents dwell within the desert, are said to see into the future, and indistinctly know the kind from the cruel. Young Valoon women are known to keep them as pets, introducing them to potential suitors in hopes the tiny beast's instincts will guide them to happiness and love. Seriously, it is a rat with probably the most epic facial hair I've ever seen. I just want to point that out first and foremost. If anyone watches our ESO show, Tales of Tamriel, our last episode, go look at the 100, I think it's 185. Lawrence Schick, the old lore master at ZeniMax, had this amazing, awesome facial hair, this amazing mustache. Essentially, that's what this thing has. Like, I'm kind of jealous of that awesome mustache, but yeah, that mustache is pretty sick. But otherwise, it's a gerbil or a ferret. No, it's not a ferret. It's a gerbil.
Are those little hands in front of it?
Yes! Those are little hand claws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll pass on that one, too.
I mean, it also has that weird little stone embedded in its head or a third eye. I don't know. It kind of looks like topaz, maybe? Because it almost... From the image that I'm viewing it right now, it almost has a gem cut into it, but... I don't know. I also want to point out this is February and Valentine's Day, so of course the two tails form a heart.
I'm sure that's related.
Yeah.
Really? Is it?
Possibly.
Right. Clearly important to the lore. All right.
Clearly.
The next cosmetic we have, and this is the regalia of the plated heart. Many of the Valoon, just going to pause there for a second, believe that the noble must be as comfortable in the battlefield as they are in the ballroom. Their armor is often designed with both in mind, though many nobles joke there is a little difference between the two. There was originally a typo on this one, and I think I pointed it out, and I was like, you know, from everything we know about the cultures that you told us so far, it was originally, I guess, Kalar, the Kalar humans. And I'm like,
it was originally Kalar. Yeah.
It doesn't match.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because I thought the exact same thing when I was reading the description. I went through and I was like, "Oh, Kalar, are you sure that's Kalar?"
Are you sure?
I just didn't say anything, and then I saw your message and was like,
I mean, I would understand where some people maybe didn't, because right off the bat, if you look at the individuals that are displayed, they don't necessarily look as dark as they probably should. They're somewhat tan, but I wouldn't say they're dark enough.
I mean, I interpreted the Valoon as being, from like tanned color down to dark color, right? And
in real world cultures, it would be Northern African, which is a lot of the Muslim tribes, Islamic tribes around the area, North Africa, Africans. Stuff of that nature is the darker tones. That whole lower Mediterranean area down to around Ethiopia, if you want to go to real life terms. Egypt, all that area. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I still think they're a little light, even if you were looking at more of a Middle Eastern appearance.
Yeah, that's true.
They just look a little light to me. I actually don't mind this. I think it looks pretty cool. I like the little scale mail dress the lady has on.
Yeah.
But
it does look pretty cool.
Are you going to buy this?
I
That's a no.
Probably not. Just because I'm not necessarily a fan of formal wear anywhere.
Fair enough.
I'll usually get the standard black suit if that's available in a game, but nah, not really.
I'm starting to see a common trend with this one because last February's was awful as well. That was when Stuffertons happened.
Oh, Stuffertons, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't happen this year.
Well, I don't know.
Like Whiskers is here.
I'd argue. I'd argue some of that. I mean, this next one up here we got on the screen. I don't know how I feel about this one. This is the Glimmering Geode. The Glimmering Geodes have no natural predators among the dunes of Vera. For no claw or fang can pierce the crystals that protect the flesh within. Taming the beast is no easy task, but those who succeed cross the desert in both safety and style. Is that really stylish or creepy?
So is that a mouth?
It's a mouth. It's essentially a clam geode with weird Cthulhu tentacles out the back.
So the answer is creepy.
Yes. But where do you sit? On the top of the clam?
I'm assuming on the top of the clam. Where else would you want? I don't think I'd want to sit in its mouth. That just, you forget that you're late for feeding it one day, and guess what?
Well, that's the plan. You're the backup.
You're the backup dinner. You always make sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would assume. Okay, I'm having bad flashbacks to Final Fantasy 14 when you sat on the head of like the Goobu things.
Oh yeah.
It just is so ridiculous. I don't know. Again, my own personal opinion. Some people like that thing, but to me, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to sit on a geode. A clam geode with tentacles,
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad things happen. Next up, we got the Caravan skin, which is the Caravan of the Radiant Kingdom. Going back to the more... I don't really know how to describe this in an adequate way for podcast. I feel bad for podcast listeners on this particular episode because so much of the stuff on here is so weird that it's hard to describe with words. We have a Caravan skin, which is being drawn by the zebra. It's a zebra, but I don't know if they have a specific name.
Hey, you're right. Zebra.
Okay. All right.
That's a point of contention to South Africans. I'm not South African, but yeah.
Okay. Cool. I said it right. I'm happy. Next up is what looks like a mosque or the Taj Mahal sitting on a cart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say it's more mosque-ish because most mosques have the domed roof.
Yeah. It's mosque-ish.
Yeah. Okay. And then a tree that Rafiki would sit in. I'm waiting for him to jump out. Like, that's the best way I could describe this tree. If you've ever watched The Lion King, Rafiki's up there with his little broken fruit, drawing a big mane around Simba, laughing like hysterically. That's where he's at.
So, yeah. So there's a comment by Satiki that I actually agree with. I think they were just sitting around drinking and they came up with this one. It's like, you don't know what... I actually thought that it was just a zebra with a cart behind it, passing in front of a building and trees, not thinking... And then I kind of looked closer and realized, oh no, that's actually all one piece.
Yep. The description is, shade is rare and precious respite from the harsh sun of the desert. And it was not long before the merchants of the Valoon decided that if they could not find the shade of trees, they would bring it themselves. So that tree is legit growing off the back of this caravan. Chat is like not a fan. I mean, we're reaching ridiculous levels here. And I think it's just the common thing we do for every February. Just ridiculous things.
Mm-hmm.
Because quite frankly, of everything we've seen so far, the only thing that I liked, so far we have one more thing to go for. It was the Regalia of the Plated Heart. I thought that looks neat. I really do like it. It has a Path of Fire from Guild Wars 2 theme. I love the Alone in area. I like that. That's cool. Maybe some others like the other things, but nothing else really stuck out to me. The Oracle of the Far Prairie, that pet is just creepy and a thing of nightmares. The Geode feels like a bad hentai film going wrong.
I think the whole drinking thing probably makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah.
Somebody was drinking heavily when they designed this stuff. Yeah. Anyway, all right, final image we've got here for this month. I would love, and just as a thing, I would love to see. I know they would never share this because why would they? But I would love to see the sales metrics for each month to see which sold better. They don't even have to say how much they made. I would just like to see a graph on what stuff actually sold and in what quantities compared to everything else. Because I really feel this would be a record low. I mean, I know I have a sort of weird taste. I know I prefer more realistic looking things, so a lot of stuff isn't to me. But even chat rooms like,
yeah. This is the first package and group in a long time that I'm not buying a single one from.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I normally buy maybe one thing each time. But yeah, you're right. This one, I'm not touching a single one. Which is keeping in line with the February cosmetics, because I didn't buy a single one of the Stuffertons thing either. So, next one up is the Star Weavers Workshop. This is a freehold appearance. The great tailors of the Vec build their workshops so that the light of the moon shines directly onto their looms. And with deft hands, they weave radiance of the cosmos into every thread. So, essentially, if you're used to seeing the Vec architecture, which is very Aztec in inspiration, I would say. Very right angles, a lot of triangular type side settings. And, of course, the loom in the center of these two towers, essentially. That's the best way to describe it. It's a loom between two towers. This one's not bad, but I don't play orcs, and the Vec never. I mean, Vec interests me more than the Renkai do, because I've always liked the shamanistic appeal of orcs. That's probably going all the way back to my World of Warcraft days and love of Thrall because he was cool. But I don't know. This is passable. This one and the Regalia are passable. I would say if I saw any of these in the game, I wouldn't really bat an eyelash. If I see any of the other ones in game, I may PK the people just because they deserve to die for buying those things. Oh, what are your guys' thoughts?
I'm honestly not interested in any of these this month.
Yeah. The building, I still have the same complaint that I have with the building. I don't know, what the heck my freehold's going to look like, what I'm going to do with it, what the world around it looks like, or what are my free options.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really appeal to me that much, so no. No.
And I mean, I bought the freehold that looks like the church from a few months back, the knight armor, and that's what I like. That I'd use. I probably won't touch another freehold skin pack because that's the one I'll probably end up using, since you can only have one freehold appearance per, or one freehold per account. What's the point of getting others?
Actually, that's a good question. One of them. So are these supposed to remodel the whole freehold?
It's probably a building, so you could probably mix and match a few things.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But I'm assuming what's going to happen is when you get a freehold, it's a set grid, and you can place different buildings. Different buildings take up more of the grid. It's like a Tetris game. Well, if I go with the giant guild hall, that's 75% of my total grid.
Yeah.
If I go with the smelter, that's a little bit less. You can probably mix and match depending on what you want. Yeah. Anyway. Chat room is just like, this is not. It's not a thing that I'm real interested in. Final bit of the news, and this one is going to be interesting. There was a comment on the AOC discussion channel on the 10th of February, and we've known about this director's letter that's supposed to be coming for a while. The reason why I wanted to bring this up, and let me preface this before we get started. We do not have any insider knowledge on what is going to be in this director's letter. This is speculation based on what we know about the development of the game, what we've been told in the past, and our own experiences with using Unreal Engine, developing an Unreal Engine, and what we think is actually happening here. So let's keep that in mind, and when the director's letter comes out, we will readdress this. But I'm fairly confident in all of what I'm going to be saying that I would be willing to put money down that when the director's letter comes out, that it's going to be what I've been saying. I could be wrong, but I highly doubt it. This is a quote from Steven in the Discord. APOC revealed architectural issues that would have been revealed later, which was partly its purpose. And while development is split into separate departments, engineering, design, art, etc., some of these issues needed rebuilding from the ground up. I will go into more detail of our plans in the director's letter, which I plan to have done within the next couple of weeks, but I'm waiting on a few definitive answers first. So what we know, they're using Unreal Engine. They're using a custom network solution. They have said they're using a custom network solution. We know that they have edited the code of Unreal to work to their own custom needs. We also know that from APOC, they are having issues getting the amount of players onto a single server without the server exploding. It's been getting better, but it's still far from what we would say an MMORPG is supposed to be. I don't think they were able to even do a full 200-man without the servers catching fire. And I think the best they got was like 192, where the server didn't immediately crash, but it was still not all that great. So there you go. Again, we're going to be talking about this from the perspective that, you know, we are still fans of the game, and we believe they'll be able to do it, but there may be some unpopular opinions for some people as we go forward. All right. Who wants to take this first? How about Storms? Because you had a great thing pre-show.
Yeah, I rambled off pre-show, right? So this is standard. This is practice when a new company, which Intrepid is, takes software and makes a decision of buy versus build. They made a decision to buy and build. So what you've done is you took a situation where you could have done one or the other, and you've done both. So not only do you have to be aware of anytime you make a change, you have to accommodate how that's going to change when the engine itself updates. It could be millions of dollars every time the engine updates if they do make enough changes in the right places. Based on what they've said, again, this is all speculation because we don't know exactly what they've changed. They've gone in and made some fundamental changes to the networking. I would anticipate the not the fighting animation, but the physics of it and how the hitboxes are going to work, as opposed to using something that's generic and comes with Unreal that has been tested for the past number of years. They knew better and decided to write portions of it either themselves or customize what was there. This is not a criticism so much as of Intrepid as of people who are new to doing buy versus build decisions. This is what they end up doing. They end up buying it, going, we're going to use it as it is, and then they start making changes and they snowball. And they're going to make fundamental changes, eventually making changes so deep, like happens now, it's going to take a serious amount of time to fix what somebody did probably 6 months to a year ago. They made a decision and didn't realize what they did. Right. I'll give you, for instance, without naming any names in real life, because I'd get in trouble. But there was a decision was made 5 years ago at a particular place to use one identifier as opposed to another. Right? Just really simple thing. All certain things would have this one identifier as opposed to another. Because of that decision, these was supposed to be joined into a singular system, right, within a year. Millions of transactions in a singular system. Because of this one identifier decision, which was the wrong decision, and it was a build and a buy situation, they could never combine them together. So essentially, they tried to combine two systems into one and just made two new systems because they made a fundamental change. Now, what this particular group didn't do was go back and say, hey, you know what? We made a bad decision. Let's scrap it and start over. They could have done that 6 months into it. They didn't do that. In this case, Intrepid saw what they did based on the hockey stick and fire hose testing that was done. And they go, okay, this was a mistake. We need to go back and we need to make some fundamental changes. But think about how much time has transpired since we're guessing that initial change was made.
Well, we know that it could be anywhere from a few months to up to 3 years worth of development time.
Yep.
At the very least.
I'm speculating a year.
Yeah.
But if you're making architectural changes and you're supposed to be less than a year from launch, that's a huge thing to change. That's big.
First and foremost, I always want to address that. And I know a lot of people get excited because of the before 2020. That was what their proposed launch date is. This happens in development. I'm trying to think of the game that was supposed to. There was a bunch of games that were supposed to come out when they announced a certain date, and then they came out years later. I think Warhammer was pushed back like 2 years, if I remember correctly. Like, it was supposed to come out, and then it got pushed back. Then it got pushed back again. It happens in development. And I've said this since the start, where they've been saying, oh, we're ahead of schedule, which I believe they were, but they finally hit that bug where they can't get by it. They are going back and fundamentally rebuilding. When you say fundamentally rebuilding, it may have taken them a year to build up that far. It doesn't necessarily mean that's how far back they're going to be going. Even from building from the ground up, you can't give up the experience you had. You'll be building faster. But
absolutely.
One of the criticisms of Unreal, which I think we addressed in episode 7, was how they handled the network code, because Unreal was not really built with MMORPGs in mind originally, but you can do a whole lot. It
was built with the FPS in mind.
Yeah. If they have to rebuild that, which is obviously, I think, one of the issues that they're having, is getting people connected without the servers exploding, how that's handling all that data from the client to the server. They were not using, and given what Steven said, they were using a custom. I'm assuming 100% custom. Only because I don't know any different, and going what they said, that they were scrapping Unreal's network backend and doing all their own. So if they're having to rebuild that from scratch,
that's big.
So I will just interject this as a potential limiter to how bad it may be. The part of that quote that he had was that last Thursday was a preliminary test of that new architecture. In other words, the getting of 200 players or so, So, I definitely think it's going to be a delay, like you guys are saying, but I'm wondering how much of it will actually be if they're already at the point where you're testing 200 players.
But they haven't done their letter yet. I think what they were doing was they were pushing out the latest rendition of their spaghetti code network, for lack of a better term. I don't mean to. I know it sounds condescending because it was a condescending term, but that's not what I meant it by. they took a new rendition of what their already established network code was and pushed it out for the last test. They
Gotcha.
realized from that testing that there is inherent problems with the entire architecture of their network backend. And I'm saying network backend because, let's face it, I highly doubt any of the architectural issues are with Unreal. The engine itself, in the way that the engine is supposed to operate by itself. We're talking the server architecture, how it interconnects. That is what they were working on that's custom. And actually, I'm going to back this up with quotes, because guess what? I have quotes.
Uh-oh.
This is from Jeffrey Bard talking about Unreal Engine 4. Unreal Engine makes it really fast to iterate. Compared to other gaming engines, I can do something in an hour that would take me 8 hours doing in another engine. We're ripping out most of the network code that Unreal has and putting in our own just so that it works with our game and so everything is as efficient as possible. We're not going to have any replication problems because we're building it ourselves. That was from Jeffrey Bard. Now, I don't have a date on that, but I do have, for those of you who are watching us live, I will pop that in. That's ashesofcreation.wiki/Unreal_engine_4. That's your URL.
Isn't that like buying a Ford and saying, you know what, let's put a Hemi in here, right? let's do that. We can just slap it in. It'll be efficient. But there's all those other connections that you might not know about because you're not a SME at, Fords or Hemis. Let's put them both together. I worked on some, let's say a developer worked on GM car. Great. So you got some fundamental knowledge. You can do, your stuff in whatever MMO you want. But unless that MMO was done in Unreal, you do not know how it behaves. There is so much code behind these things. Until you break it open, you don't know what you're going to do. That's the buy versus build decision. It's all fundamental. And this is just systematic of new companies coming in and deciding to build something, and they know better than the experts who put together the engine they're going to use.
Shout out to Shiro Asaki 1489 in Twitch chat. He let me know this was actually from the May 24th, 2017 live stream is when this particular quote was actually mentioned. I guess I probably could have seen that in the annotations. But yeah, the May 24th, 2017 live stream, which does have a link that you can watch it yourself. So, see, this is what I think when they said that the architectural issues is this network code. They're starting from scratch. I really do believe they're going to be starting from scratch. And
so here's the point they shouldn't do. They shouldn't start from scratch. They're not, how do I say this? They've now shown that they're not the experts they thought they were at network code. Get the experts at network code who do MMOs to do this. Don't do it yourself. Reach out to somebody who's done this. Not me, right? Yeah. Reach out to somebody who's done this and use their knowledge. That's what you use vendors for.
I mean, I get the vendor side, but they have been snapping up MMO developers for years. Whether or not they have the people who they need to have, I don't know.
But have the ones they've snapped up, they're MMO developers. But what was that MMO developed on?
Sure.
Right. So it's like, yeah, say my dad's an expert at drafting, and car layouts for Ford. That's fantastic. Hire him in a GM. He's going to have great ideas, but he's not going to know how GM works and how a GM car, a Cadillac is going to work, except fundamentally because he's ridden in Cadillacs. So I've played MMOs. I am not an expert at networking code in an MMO because plus on top of that in Unreal. I mean, there's a time to say, let's do it ourselves. There's a time to say, let's buy it. There's a time to say, yep, you know what? We screwed the pooch on that one. How do we fix this? Putting the same people on it, not putting them down to fix it is probably not the best idea because they've made those mistakes. When you create code, you're you're really tied to it. It's personal, right? So to you, it's automatically it's the best code ever. That fundamentally is going to stop them from finding their real problem. You got to have somebody else come in, even just to do that. Bring an entire different consultant in to walk through your code, to walk through what the problems are, and have them tell you what the problems that need to be fixed. Because that person is not tied to the code. That person can be separate, can compartmentalize, and not say, "Hey, I married to this thing for a year. I don't want to change that." Somewhat, at this point, they need to do that.
And I mean, the same argument we made in the prior episode, I think episode 7 about Unreal. MMOs have been made in the Unreal Engine before. It was earlier iterations, 2 and 3, a lot of Eastern MMOs. So somebody somewhere has got the network code right.
Wait, but anything... which games were with Unreal Engine?
I think Terra's one. Bless was one. I think one of the Lineages was one.
I guarantee you Unreal has SMEs they could contract out to come to them and do a consulting job and say, this is what's wrong. But they have to step aside. Intrepid has to step aside and let them do that.
So I'm not fully convinced on that, only because, okay, so Bless, to this day, if you log in, they still haven't got their network code right. Their optimization is off the charts. Like, they would be not the optimal person, right? Or a team to look at in order to optimize your game, right? What I'm trying to do a comparison of is
Lineage 2 was built on Unreal 2, which is one of Steven's favorite games, by the way.
Okay, fair enough. Lineage 2. How many people, or what is comparable? Did they have a 200-man?
Yeah. They were all open world everything. Their castle sieges were massive. Like, if you ever part of a castle siege, it was hundreds of players. Now, Vanguard, Saga of Heroes, you could argue that one had a lot of issues. That one was also done in Unreal 2.
Okay.
I'm going through, like, other people have done it. APB, which, you know, I don't know if anyone's played APB, but that is done in Unreal 3. Ascent Infinite Realm, which isn't out yet. That's one of those new coming one, is done in Unreal 3. There's a lot. Like, I'm just looking through some of this list.
Well,
Bless was
I'm not saying that the games aren't in Unreal 3. What I'm wondering of is, are they attempting, or have they done the scale of what Intrepid is trying to do?
Sure. I get it. Yeah, no. I'm trying to look. I see DC Universe Online. Yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, they're all MMOs. You could argue that they are. How do I want to say?
But don't restrict yourself to MMOs. Restrict yourself to any games that have over 200 people on a server at a time.
Right.
Well, no. It's not over 200 people on a server at a time. That's not what I think is going on here. I think it's 200 people simultaneously in a small area at a time and functioning at a high rate.
Lineage 2 definitely had that. Mortal Online is done in this as well. So yeah, there's a lot of people.
You're gonna have that same. But regardless whether it's an MMO, you're gonna have that if you have enough people in a concentrated area, and it's not just the people, it's everything else the people are doing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But you have to have, again, the right tools, right? So if you have Unreal Engine, I guarantee you, I don't know what it is, I guarantee you there's a network tool for monitoring Unreal. Now, the question is, did they have to make their own tool because they modified that code, or could they use those tools to debug what they have? Right. So, and this is the point of, you have to be able to say, whatever this issue is, we have to fix it. Right. And this is a very mature move in a software company to say, this ain't going to work. You know, they're giving you some pre-warning, and then they're going to come out and tell you when. But this is very mature of them to do this. But they also have to take the step of getting it fixed the right way. Because if they're just going to make the same mistakes, you're not going to get this fixed, or you're going to cause other problems down the line. And I'm not being critical of any one particular person. I think it's it's a way development works. And if you're a new group of people, they're always going to follow this pattern. And unless you have somebody who can stand up and say, you know what, we've done that. We screwed the pooch on that one, and this is why. We can either avoid that by doing this mitigation over here, or another one over here by using what we bought as opposed to building our own or customizing it. It's just going to depend. But they have to be open-minded to find that solution.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree. It's not... And I see some people in chat, and we'll address this one as well, because this is a good question. And because we're not doing a post show, I'm being a little more interactive with chat than normal. But this is good even for MMO listeners. We actually had a question in chat going, for the end of the show, can the panel answer this question? This is a good thing to wrap up one for this show. How bad is this for Intrepid Studios? This particular... Let's put this into a little bit of perspective. The current MMOs that are being kickstarted right now, we have Star Citizen, who knows what that is. Camelot Unchained was actually supposed to be in open beta 4 years ago. I think it was 4 years ago. Based on their Kickstarter timelines, but as they got into development, they realized that the engine they were using was not going to match up with what their promises were going to be, and they had to do a total from ground up rewrite. Okay? Same thing, a similar thing happened with the combat system in Crowfall. And I think that was actually supposed to already be launched like last year or the year before. And that's still now, I think, in closed beta, closed alpha. It's moving along. Worst case scenario, I would say absolute worst case scenario, and this is just speculation because we were asked, I could see that this is going to set them back probably a good 3 years. Worst case. I don't think that's actually going to happen. I think they're probably going to lose about a year worth of time. If the game was supposed to be out by the end of 2019, I'm thinking we're closer. My personal bet, Q4 2020 or Q2 2021. The whole June timeline for 2021. So I'm thinking anywhere from a year to a year and 6 months past what their initial release thought was going to be, which we could say December 31st, 2019, because that's not going to happen.
I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the first part of his question, which was how terrifying or how bad is this for the studio?
It's not bad for the studio. I mean, this happens all the time. The biggest problem with delays is the idea that the studio becomes insolvent before they can get a product out to make money.
I think a bigger problem with delays is if they don't learn from their mistakes when they re-estimate what's left, right? So if you go ahead and you don't learn from done, if you don't know how to count what the cost to build a tower the first time, which they missed, right? We admit it, they missed.
Yeah.
So have they learned enough, right? Have they learned enough to now say, okay, now we know this tower is going to cost us this much. It's going to take us this long to do it. Have they learned enough from their mistake? Because again, people learn through failure, not through success. They learn through failure. So if they take this as a learning lesson and they move forward, I think it's okay for Intrepid. But they have to be learning from the lesson they have and appropriately estimate what it's going to take to do, their rewrite. If they do it wrong, then you start to get in that spiral scenario.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it's worrisome at all. I mean, it'll definitely affect the timeline, like you guys are saying. I think it'll... I'm not quite convinced it'll take a year, but I'm thinking like 3 quarters, maybe 2-3 quarters. But I don't know. Again, I have no information to actually base this off.
Oh, yeah, this is speculation from our end, 100%.
But, I think, and I don't think it's worrisome, again, for a studio. I point to one of my most favorite games that I think is one of the best games in creation or existence, and that's Breath of the Wild, right? That thing was delayed 5 years. 5 years, and that's not even a multiplayer game, and they produce quality at the end. At the end of the day, I want a game that's going to release and capture and hold my attention for at least 3-4 years.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's as long as the studio A isn't so strapped for cash that they go bankrupt. I'm thinking 38 Studios. Anyone? Mark Schilling's 38 Studios and Project Copernicus. They essentially, well, there were bigger issues with that. If you're really interested, some of their financials were nuts because I guess they were a little too free and loose with the money. They were hemorrhaging cash early on. This will cost them money. In the fact that they've already spent the money to hire people to be working on this stuff, right? I believe that they have the funding in place to keep development going. That is without a doubt. I don't feel like they're in any worry there. But if they don't learn from this and this happens again...
Well, and what happens with... So, if you have all these disparate teams, which they do, and they're federated out, which is good, what if the team that's building the MMO places, right? They're building the structures that say that they can't work while this is being rewritten. And they should be able to. I'm not particular. There's a set that can't. What do? Right? You then decide, we just hired 100 people. Do we have to let 30 go? Do we have something else they can work on? Right? Is there? I don't know. Right? So this is also a decision. If we delay this, what is the testing team that was going to test this going to do? Because they have nothing to test. Again, it's all different things they have to handle. Now that they've made this delay, they have to plan all this out.
Yeah.
Sometimes not pretty.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. I mean, I heard one person, I was in Discord the other day, and I heard one person saying, well, they're doing agile development, so it shouldn't matter, you know? And I'm like, that's not the case. Yeah, that's not the case. That's not how it works. You can't have your whole architecture redesigned and not expect that to slow down the other areas. There's still integration points that you have to deal with.
You still have to make those integrations. Absolutely. If they're not lined up, then you have to decide, how do we line them up? Do we line them up by having them do something else? Do we have them line them up by laying them off for 6 months and then bringing them back? It's all going to depend.
And this could also lead to further delays in the terms of when it comes time to implement those other things that people have been working on. There may be minor rebuilds having to be, to get the pieces to fix, because we were building it for puzzle A, but now puzzle A looks like puzzle B. It's close, but not well. Here, give me the scissors. We'll fit it in. And
you're going to have a lot of repeat testing now.
Right?
Because you tested something, it turns out it didn't work, which is good to find. But that means you're going to have to retest some, maybe not all of it, but a majority of it has to be retested. Not talking about the testing we've done out, in alpha, but the actual QA department, right? They're going to have to spend hours and hours and hours and hours retesting stuff. Hopefully they have a good automated test tool, but I would gander they don't.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to be the end of our show. We are running a little long, but it was a good discussion. Again, we will address this director's letter when it does come out. So we will be revisiting this topic. I want to thank my co-hosts. We got Stormzord, Digital Piper Studios, and Alpha Soul of the_Alpha_Soul streaming, creating videos. Check out his stuff. It's pretty awesome. And of course, you can follow me here at Dungeon Crawler Network, because you can follow everything we do over dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. There you find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Be sure to check out our Patreon program at patreon.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork if you want to help support the show. You could also consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so that people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words. Sometimes they matter. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this episode of From the Ashes, and we'll see you next time. See you later, everybody.